Hey everybody, this is my 125 gallon tank, and I just got done shooting a video sitting in front of it, and I called it my gourami tank multiple times. So enjoy the video, but please remember this is not my gourami tank, this is my 125 gallon tank. Hey everybody. Recently I've been having some issues with my 125 behind me, and I've been shooting videos and documenting everything and following the whole process and sharing it with everybody. And I've been doing that despite the fact that I'm opening myself up to criticism and, accusations of being a bad fish keeper and so on and so forth. But I think it's important to get all this stuff out there for two reasons. One is I don't care about your criticisms. I'm not here to impress anybody. And two, it's just important to share the good with the bad, and I think sharing the bad is probably more important than sharing the good. In fact, I know it's more important than sharing the good. I love the fact that people watch my fish feeding videos or like to hear me chat about my early days of fish keeping and experiences I had when I was, new in the hobby and so on and so forth. But all of that stuff is just sort of enjoying the hobby together. But when we're going to learn from something, it's mistakes that we make, it's problems that we have, and that's the important stuff to get out there. And what's been going on in my gourami tank is, well, there's a lot going on in my gourami tank, and every time I want to sit down and talk about it, I'm not sure whether I want to break it down into each individual piecemeal item, because it really is a lot of separate things that are going on, but at the same time they're sort of interrelated, and I don't know if I should sit down and shoot a whole huge video. But we've been going over everything as I've sort of discovered this new thing, and now we're having this problem, and so on and so forth. And again, that opens me up to a lot of ridicule, but at the same time it's important to show that even somebody who's been keeping fish for 10 years and generally doesn't have these kinds of issues — I do have the random whatever happens, but this is a lot of stuff going on. And if there was any one thing I would say that's been the most problematic, that actually has caused me issues out of what, a lot of the stuff that we're having isn't as issue as I thought it was, but the one real problem was me, and it was overfeeding it, and it was a little bit of lack of maintenance. I don't think, for those that follow along, you'll know that I found a bunch of crud and mulm and stuff like that stuck up in my Java fern yesterday, and I initially had attributed that to part of the reason I got the fungal infection on my, again, this is a lot of stuff to unpack about this fish, but I don't think that mulm was so much the issue, because after I cleaned all that stuff out and I did the water change yesterday, I actually found the remains, I'll say, of what I can only assume was once a rainbow fish. And I'm only saying that because the rainbow fish are the only ones that are unaccounted for. It was not recognizable, and it was nasty. So that's part of where the smell was coming from. That's also part of where fungal infections and stuff like that might have come from. That mulm that breaks down in there, that was probably doing more good for my Java fern than harm to the tank necessarily. I don't think that was that problematic. Probably too much, probably should have gotten in there and gotten a little bit of that out of there as well, but it was the dead fish, and it was me overfeeding, and a few other things. Again, we're going to go over this in a lot more detail, and we'll talk about all the different issues: the cloudy water, the clown loaches, all of it. It's a lot to unpack, but it's important that I share it, because it was my complacency that got me there. These are all lessons I learned early on. I know how to keep a tank maintained and keep the mulm levels down, but after a while you just sort of start taking stuff for granted, and the basic stuff that you learn you kind of stop doing, or at least I'm speaking for myself. It's summertime, I'm spending a lot of time out in my kayak, a lot of time out in the yard. My maintenance always tends to go a little slack here in the summertime anyway, and you couple a few other things that again we'll go over, and you roll all that in together, and you have this, and you've got weird stuff going on, and fish that are getting sick that are unexplained, and so on and so forth. And I'm not blaming that on anybody but myself. It's not some mysterious circumstances in the universe. It's not any weird things that's happening. It's me. It's stuff I've done to my tank. I've removed a bunch of plants all at once. I changed my filter over. The only thing I would say is not really my fault is the clown loaches, and again, we'll get into that in its own video. I got a lot to unpack just about the clown loaches. I've been doing a lot of research on what's going on with them, and I've got a lot of thoughts about that, and I'd be interested to hear people's responses to my thoughts about what's going on with the clown loaches. But at any rate, I'm not afraid to share all the bad stuff. I'm not afraid to share my mistakes. I'm not afraid to share mysterious, like the fact I don't know what's going on, and, just put it out there for people. I'm not worried about getting judged by that kind of stuff. I just think it's more important to, if I'm having these issues because of the things I'm doing, me showing you that, look, this is what happens when you stop taking good care of your tanks. This is what happens when you overfeed your tanks. I don't care if you've been keeping fish for 10 years. This is what happens when you do these things. And if I don't put that out there, who will? Most people that were having problems with their tank would probably have just sort of kind of not shot video of that tank for a while and focused on other videos while they got their tank back in order. And then, nobody ever was the wiser that anything was going on, or it would be really downplayed or whatever. And to me that just feels like dishonesty through omission, deliberately not sharing stuff, knowing it's going to give people a false perception of what's going on here in my fish room. And I got no interest in doing that. It just doesn't feel right to me, and I got no reason to do that. Again, I don't care if you say I'm a terrible fish keeper. That doesn't hurt my feelings. Go ahead and say it. In fact, comments are good. I like any kind of activity on my channel is great. You want to thumbs down me? Knock yourself out. I appreciate it. I don't, I'm not losing any sleep over that kind of stuff. But I do feel that it's important that I get it out there so that other people can see it and say, okay, maybe I better get on top of my maintenance, or okay, I know that I should never, start taking that kind of stuff for granted, or whatever. It's just a lesson for all of us to learn, and I'm happy to share that with everybody. So make sure you're subscribed, because we will be going over a lot more stuff that's going on in this tank. I'm trying to break it up and shoot some videos of some other stuff, and so on and so forth. I don't want to just drown you in my 125. That didn't sound right, but you know what I mean. So anyway, make sure you're subscribed. We'll get to the bottom of what's been going on. It's not as mysterious as it sounds, and it's a lot of stuff that really is kind of unrelated, but sort of all happening at the same time, and it's not as much of an issue as I initially thought. I was just getting a little worried, and again, I was getting a little panicky rather than just taking a step back and assessing the situation, figuring out what was going on, which I've now done, and we'll talk about it. So thanks for watching this one. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll say again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you real soon on the next one.